Part 26.8 Surah Ash-Shu'ara, The Poets of Salamu, Alaikum. Welcome back to Sufi Essence with Hammad Syed Kanzul Aman. Ash-Shu'ara, the Poets. Chapter 26, verse 36. They said, "Keep him and his brother waiting, and send collectors to the cities." The stunning and undeniable demonstration of the two clear signs, the serpent and the luminous white hand, has caused a profound and strategically significant moment of disarray and deliberation in the court of Pharaoh. Pharaoh's immediate frantic reaction, verses 34-35, was to hastily label the divine miracles as mere sorcery, and to craft a narrative that framed the messenger's peace be upon him spiritual mission as a grave political threat to national security. Now, this verse meticulously records the immediate, collective counsel given to Pharaoh by his nobles or trusted courtiers, confirming the success of Pharaoh's political manipulation and, more critically, their collective commitment to his agenda of denial. They said, "Keep him and his brother waiting, and send collectors to the cities." The first immediate piece of their advice, "keep him and his brother waiting," is a crucial tactical maneuver. It represents a deliberate, necessary pause in the confrontation, specifically designed to buy time for the tyrant to regain his composure, to strategize his counterattack, and, most importantly, to prevent Prophet Musa peace be upon him from immediately delivering any more devastating arguments or manifestations of divine power. They seek to strategically neutralize the blinding immediacy and overpowering spiritual impact of the divine challenge by simply deferring it to a later controlled date. The spiritual lesson embedded here for the seeker of ilm is that falsehood often thrives on strategic delay and manufactured distraction, constantly seeking to rob the truth of its initial overpowering immediate impact. The second and more active part of their counsel, to send collectors to the cities, reveals the core of their practical political solution. These collectors were highly trusted, high-ranking officials charged with an intricate dual mission. Firstly, to gather the very best, most renowned and most skilled sorcerers from all parts of the vast, sprawling Egyptian empire, and secondly, to simultaneously disseminate Pharaoh's narrative, the lie that Prophet Musa, peace be upon him, was merely a dangerous foreign magician plotting a hostile takeover, thereby effectively controlling the public discourse and shaping public expectation before the magical duel could even commence. This move is a desperate strategic attempt to match Allah's uncreated spontaneous power with the highest level of acquired human skill, operating on the delusional belief that the transcendent and eternal can somehow be defeated by worldly arts and transient illusion. The fundamental arrogance of the court is starkly evident. They genuinely believe that the magic they can strategically collect and coordinate from their numerous cities can definitively overcome the immediate, spontaneous divine signs presented by the Lord of the creation. This fateful decision sets the stage for the definitive confrontation that will inevitably expose the finite limits of human power and the absolute unshakable supremacy of Allah's infinite might, a magnificent testament to the inescapable clash guaranteed by the perfect planning of Ar-Rahman and Ar-Rahim. The entire collective act of collecting is, in itself, an unwitting and massive admission that the power instantaneously displayed by Prophet Musa, peace be upon him, is so extraordinary and profound that it simply cannot be defeated by Pharaoh's immediate local resources, thus requiring the full, consolidated deployment of the empire's specialized human knowledge and skill. Kanzul Aman, Quran, Ash-Shu'ara, The Poets, Chapter 26, verse 37, "Who will bring every skilled sorcerer to you?" This verse now precisely and succinctly elaborates on the exact function of the collectors and clarifies the singular, focused and ambitious goal of their mobilization mission. Who will bring every skilled sorcerer to you? The emphatic stress here is placed squarely on the totality of human expertise. Every skilled sorcerer? Pharaoh and his nobles are not merely seeking one replacement magician. They are consciously mobilizing the entire professional magical community, the absolute best talent of the empire. This monumental action clearly reveals two critical underlying fears that grip the court. Firstly, they harbor a deep, unacknowledged fear that Prophet Musa's, peace be upon him, demonstrated power is fundamentally greater than any individual sorcerer they currently employ or know, necessitating this unprecedented mass mobilization of talent. Secondly, by gathering the collective knowledge of the occult science's seer, They desperately hoped to prove that Prophet Musa's peace be upon him acts are merely the most advanced, deceptive form of a known human art, thus forcefully denying the supernatural. Divine origin of the clear signs? This is at its core a political, spiritual, and philosophical battle for definition and classification. Is it mere magic, a product of human skill, or is it prophethood, a direct, uncreated, divine mandate? The court clings to the delusional belief that if their assembled sorcerers can either successfully replicate the miracle or successfully expose the trick, then Pharaoh's illegitimate authority will be decisively restored and his claim to divinity reaffirmed. This move is a desperate, full-scale deployment of vast worldly resources against an overwhelming divine truth. The flowing structure of the narrative highlights the geometrically increasing tension. The Pharaoh's court is not just denying the truth, they are actively doubling down on the lie, investing immense political, logistical, and material effort and resources into sustaining a massive deception. For the spiritual seeker, this whole episode serves as a clear historical example of how entrenched worldly power, threatened by transcendent truth, will always summon its most skilled intellectual and manipulative forces to obscure the simple, unblinking light of Tawhid. The very phrase skilled sorcerer acknowledges the very high professional regard and public reverence in which these practitioners were held, making their eventual crushing defeat all the more poignant, profound, and utterly devastating to Pharaoh's prestige and the credibility of his entire system. The ultimate ILM conveyed here is the recognition that the approaching showdown will not be a minor political skirmish, but a catastrophic, decisive contest between the absolute highest attainment of human art and the unconstrained, fundamental, creative power of Allah's cosmos. Kanzel Aman, Quran, Ash-Shu'ara, the Poets. Chapter 26, verse 38. So the sorcerers were gathered for the appointment of a known day. The strategic, frantic planning of the nobles now translates from palace discussion into a concrete, massive, and highly choreographed public event. So the sorcerers were gathered for the appointment of a known day, the physical gathering of every single skilled sorcerer from the four corners of the Egyptian empire was, logistically, a massive undertaking, forcefully signifying the existential importance Pharaoh placed on winning this public confrontation. The meticulous appointment of a known day is profoundly significant. It instantly elevates the conflict from a closed-door, private confrontation in the royal court into a monumental, compulsory public spectacle, a national defining event that everyone was forced to anticipate. By intentionally making the event public and widely publicized, Pharaoh's original intention was to use the inevitable, expected defeat of Prophet Musa, peace be upon him, to publicly and permanently crush the growing tide of spiritual unrest and to absolutely reaffirm his own monstrous divine status. He sought to convert the private shame and fear of his court into a massive, indelible public triumph. However, this very decision, rooted as it was in ultimate arrogance, ultimately became the perfect, devastating instrument of his own public and spiritual downfall. The fact that the day was known implies meticulous, centralized planning, pervasive public advertising, and the highest possible political and spiritual stakes for the entire nation. It also critically provided the sorcerers, who were likely traveling vast distances and required intricate preparation, sufficient time to coordinate and prepare their most potent deceptive illusions. The spiritual meaning inherent in this widespread preparation is the illuminating contrast between the vast, complicated effort required for human deception and the spontaneous effortlessness of divine truth. The sorcerers must gather, travel, plan, and physically execute their arts. Prophet Musa, peace be upon him, only needs to, by Allah's command, cast down his simple staff. The Sufi understands that Allah consciously allowed this massive public spectacle to be meticulously organized and fully unfold, not to merely entertain the masses, but to provide an ultimate, undeniable, and widely witnessed proof to the common people, the vast majority of the audience, whose souls were still open. This public nature ensured they would witness the profound, unwalgible, and saving difference between transient, labored magic and eternal, effortless miracle. The sheer logistical effort of gathering every skilled sorcerer underscores the immense gravity of the existential threat Pharaoh subconsciously perceived from Prophet Musa, peace be upon him, and the uncreated divine power that backed him. Kanzelaman, Quran, Ash-Shu'ara, the Poets, chapter 26, verse 39. And it was said to the people, "Will you assemble?" The planned scope and monumental scale of the event are further dramatically emphasized by the explicit command and widespread call to the public to attend. And it was said to the people, "Will you assemble?" This is a deliberate, large-scale, mandatory mobilization of the general populace. The question, "Will you assemble?" is clearly less an innocent inquiry into their willingness and more a veiled command, leveraging the immense weight of the state authority to ensure the maximum possible attendance. This massive public gathering was fundamentally not just about the outcome of the magical contest itself. It was primarily about the collective, undeniable witnessing of the spiritual event. Pharaoh intended to weaponize this mass assembly as a monumental propaganda victory. By forcing the people to witness the expected dramatic humiliation of Prophet Musa, peace be upon him, by the powerful, state-sanctioned sorcerers, he sought to politically indoctrinate them and extinguish any nascent spiritual hope that the truth-bearing message of the Lord of the creation had momentarily ignited in their hearts. The mandated presence of the people is crucial because the truth, when it ultimately manifests, is intended for the spiritual salvation of all humanity, not just for the conversion of the elite court. Allah permitted this massive assembly precisely so that when the truth triumphed, the witness would be widespread, overwhelming, and unassailable. This aspect of the narrative teaches the paramount importance of public testimony and mass witnessing in the history of prophethood and revelation. The spiritual truth must boldly confront falsehood in the public square in the full light of day, where its power and clarity can be instantly perceived by the common soul. The receptive calb that has not yet been hardened by the cynical complexities of palace politics, high office, or vested self-interest. The massive, compulsory assembly of the people represents the ultimate spiritual jury, whose collective judgment, when instantaneously freed from political coercion by the terrifying spectacle of the true miracle, will become the most significant, society-altering spiritual conversion of the entire drama. The emphasis on the rhetorical question, "Will you assemble?" serves as a powerful device, drawing the listener, the ordinary person, into the narrative and forcing them to personally anticipate the colossal spiritual and political stakes of the impending decisive duel. Kanzelaman, Quran, Ash-Shu'ara, the Poets. Chapter 26, verse 40. Perhaps we may follow the sorcerers if they are the triumphant ones. The motive for the people's attendance and their underlying, pragmatic spiritual disposition is now laid completely bare, articulated by the general populace, revealing their mindset in the purely conditional spiritual gamble of the decisive day.
Perhaps we may follow the sorcerers
if they are the triumphant ones. This devastatingly honest statement perfectly captures the deeply pragmatic, self-interested, wait-and-see attitude of the masses, highlighting the profound spiritual uncertainty and lack of moral conviction that pervaded Egyptian society. The people were not committed to the truth of Tawhid or to Pharaoh's self-proclaimed divinity. They were simply aligned with whichever side demonstrated superior visible power. Their core decision to follow is conditioned entirely on whoever proves to be the triumphant ones, the visible winners of the contest. This statement profoundly reveals a society that has tragically lost its moral and spiritual compass, defining ultimate truth not by the criteria of justice, intrinsic goodness, or Tawhid monotheism, but by visible, spectacular, worldly success and dominance. The spiritual tragedy inherent here is that the people are explicitly prepared to follow sorcerers, professional deceivers, and illusionists. If those deceivers win the public relations battle and demonstrate the greater power, this passive, conditional spiritual state contrasts sharply with the firm, unwavering conviction of Prophet Musa, peace be upon him, who is supported by the absolute, uncreated power of Allah. Allah allows this underlying uncertainty and this conditional following to be fully exposed because the impending, devastating miracle is designed to strip away all conditions and preconditions, forcing a radical, immediate, and unconditional spiritual decision upon the entire assembly. Their stated initial disposition of conditional belief makes their ultimate, collective, and immediate conversion to the absolute truth, once the miracle occurs, even more powerful and historically significant. The statement also shows that the common people were already spiritually primed and looking for a clear, definitive sign, a genuine authority to follow. At the state-sanctioned sorcerers were merely the establishment's current, but ultimately disposable champions. This fundamental readiness for profound change underscores the immense spiritual opportunity inherent in this large-scale confrontation. The entire mobilization, from the strategically dispatched collectors to the compulsory public assembly, is built upon the people's wavering, conditional commitment, setting the stage for Allah's clear sign to not just defeat the sorcerers, but to decisively capture the hearts and minds kalb of the vast assembled masses. Hadith, the Prophet, peace be upon him, taught, the similitude of the one who practices sorcery is that of a spider weaving a weak web. And indeed, the weakest of homes is the home of the spider. Sunan al-Tirmidhi. Hadith 3350, paraphrased for thematic relevance to sorcery and weakness. This powerful hadith strongly relates to the theme of verses 36 to 40, where Pharaoh mobilizes every skilled sorcerer. The hadith teaches that no matter how skilled human deception sorcery may appear, its foundation is inherently weak, fragile, and utterly unsustainable, like a spider's web, providing a profound, contrasting context to the eternal, unshakable power of Allah's truth and miracles that Prophet Musa, peace be upon him, is about to demonstrate before the massive assembly. Let us now supplicate, drawing from the profound lessons of these verses, asking Allah to grant us a deeper understanding and to guide our every step. O Allah, prevent our hearts from seeking worldly delay when directly confronted by your truth. Enabling immediate, sincere action, guard us, O Al-Aziz, against the spiritual deception that seeks to label your majestic divine signs as mere human art or sorcery. Protect us from the tyranny of the nobles and the self-interested elite who seek to enforce falsehood through political strategy and coercion. Grant us the grace to stand firm on the appointed day, witnessing and affirming the triumph of your power over all human skill and illusion. Save our kalb from the pragmatic, conditional spiritual uncertainty of the masses who follow visible worldly success rather than absolute truth and tawhid. Make our inner being a sincere, immediate judge, discerning effortlessly between the transient, deceptive illusion and the eternal, uncreated miracle. May our entire life be a clear, unshakable testimony to your absolute lordship, proving the superiority of your divine ilm over all worldly knowledge and deceit. Secure our absolute reliance, tawakkul, upon your magnificent names, Ar-Rahman and Ar-Rahim, in every grand and minute confrontation with falsehood. May Allah illuminate your heart and mind with the light of this divine ilm. May He make your channel a beacon of guidance for all who seek spiritual clarity and truth. May your efforts be a source of immense reward, and may you be granted the highest stations of paradise. May the peace and blessings of Allah always be upon you and your loved ones. May He grant you unwavering steadfastness on the path of truth, and may your work be a testament to His magnificent names, Ar-Rahman and Ar-Rahim. Amin.